Hello and welcome to the J.A. Henkel's Knife Skills instructional video. I'm Jim Shіблера and I am truly excited to teach you at home how to become skillful, precise, accurate, and confident in your kitchen using the finest knives in the world. I have been a professional gourmet chef for over 20 years and have worked as a chef at 6 of the leading hotels of the world and as chef instructor at several of the world's leading institutions. The goal of this video is for you to spend less time in the kitchen and more time with your family. Let's face it, most of the time that's spent in the kitchen is dedicated to the preparation. Most of the preparation is dedicated to knife skills or cutting or mincing or chopping or using a knife in some way. Therefore, if you can increase your proficiency while using a knife, you will spend less time in the kitchen. This video will demonstrate every single cut using the majority of the most used knives. Remember, safety is the key. I recommend that you watch this video over and over until you have a good understanding of all the knife basics. Then, implement them and make them your own. We also all have weaker areas that we need to focus on. Therefore, I encourage you to use your slow-mo and pause buttons on your VCR to really focus in on the technique. Then immediately implement them and watch your confidence and skill soar. Eventually, you will become one with the knife, which is the ultimate breed of cutlery excellence. We all have this potential to reach this level of cutlery skill. And I encourage you, stay focused, enjoy the journey, and commit yourself. Good luck. Each knife has its distinct purpose, and how we grip the knife determines whether we maximize its usage. I am right-handed, therefore, I will be demonstrating the techniques using my right hand throughout this video. If you are left-handed, simply reverse the techniques. We will begin with the king of knives, the chef's knife, also known as the cook's knife. This knife can be virtually used for 80% of all kitchen cuts. The grip is very simple. I grip the knife with my 3 fingers based on the handle, where the blade attaches to the handle, which is called the bolster. I then have my thumb, which is almost parallel to the blade of the knife, with a slight downward angle. I then have my index finger, which bends at the top knuckle and then is straight to the bottom of the blade. I make sure that the distance between my end of my index finger and the bottom of the blade is at least 1/3 of an inch to ensure safety. By bringing my hand forward, I maintain equal balance and equal distribution of the weight of the handle and the blade. That is key for control and precision. And Hенkel's did not overlook that feature. In fact, they have been creating the most superior balanced knives since 1731. I remember when I picked up my first Hенkel's about 20 years ago, and it was a magical experience. In fact, I felt that they designed this knife specifically for my hand itself. Let's talk about what size knife you should choose. First of all, there's several elements to consider. First, the size of your hand. The larger your hand, the larger knife you can generally handle. Secondly, the level of skill. If you're an expert with a knife, you can usually handle a bigger knife. If you're a beginner, I would start with a 6-inch or an 8-inch chef's knife. Third, the larger the knife, the more surface area you can cover, therefore decreasing your cutting time. But remember, the smaller the knife, the safer it is. So you need to find a right balance between covering enough area and also making sure it's safe. So those are the 4 elements to consider when choosing the size of the knife. Now, how do you hold your opposite hand? We certainly know how to grip the knife, but how do you position your stabilizing hand? First of all, you want to make sure that your middle knuckle is perpendicular 90 degrees from the board itself, okay? Next thing you want to make sure that is that your fingertips are behind that knuckle itself, never exposed. Next thing you want to do is you want to make sure your thumb stays as a stabilizer into the rear of the product, therefore pushing down. And then you also want to make sure that your fingertips press onto the product, aren't just sitting there on top of the product, but they're actually pressing into the product. Those four elements will ensure that you have a safe cut and will maximize your efficiency. Remember, safety is the key. Never bring the knife blade above your knuckle, okay? Always stay in the center of the middle knuckle, obviously above the product, but never above. Secondly, never feed the product towards your knife blade, okay? Because that will expose your fingertips and increase the chance of you getting cut. Instead, retreat with your fingers. I do this by utilizing or mimicking a spider-like motion. I press firmly down with my 3 fingers, and then I bring my 2 fingers back. I do it again, I press down, and then I bring it back. So I always retreat. And the final thing is, I always cut with my knife against my knuckle. I never move my knuckle and then move my knife. Move my knuckle and then move my knife. I always move it together, and they are always touching. That will make sure that you never get cut. You see that? I'm constantly on the knuckle and I'm retreating. And remember, if I have a 10-inch carrot, if I begin here, I will end up 10 inches to the left because I didn't feed the product. Our first cut is lyonnaise onions, or finely sliced. I want to take the heel of the knife and go through the top and the bottom of the onion, taking the root off completely. Now, to lyonnaise or finely slice the onion, I make sure that the rounded area faces one side of my board. Now I press my fingers into the onion itself, making sure that it can't move around or slip away. My thumb is my stabilizer. My fingertips are always behind that middle knuckle. And remember, I hit my knife and then I come down. I hit my finger with my knife and then I come down. I never move and then the knife. It's a together motion. I keep them together simultaneously. And I always retreat my fingers, never feed, never expose my fingertips. My fingertips are always behind that middle knuckle. And we use a straight up and down motion on that knuckle. If you notice, I don't move away from that knuckle at all. And now, the height is greater than the width. Therefore, to ensure safety, I turn it over. And now I continue on the other side. And I retreat like a spider with those fingers. Let me do one more. Again, retreat like a spider. Never feed. Never lift the knife blade above the knuckle. Press down on the onion and keep this knuckle perpendicular to the board. Our next cut is diced onions. Notice when I peel the onion, I left the root on. That is key in keeping the onion together and prevent it from falling apart. Now I utilize a stabbing and pulling motion with the onion. I stab and I pull. And I slap the tip of the knife against my knuckle before I pull it. Here we go. Remember, stab and pull, and look how I go right against my knuckles, just like that. Now the onion is sliced, but it's still together, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come underneath. The distance that you retreat dictates the distance of the cut of the onion. Now I cut underneath, and I bring the onion towards me because of this gap between the knife and the board. I want it to be flush. I want my cuts flat. Then I go over the top, and now I come straight down using a rocking motion, just like that. And there you have diced onion. Our next cut is julienne, which is also known as finely slivered. Now I take my red bell pepper. What I want to do is I want to remove the ribs to make sure I have a consistent and even surface. Now what I do is I use a rocking motion. Again, same technique. My knuckles are perpendicular to the cutting surface, and I'm rocking the blade using the heel. Now the heel is positioned directly underneath my hand, therefore ensuring that I have complete control and proper balance of the blade. And there we have proper julienne, which is approximately 1/8 thick by 2.5 to 3 inches long. And that's also known as finely slivered. Our next cut is brunoise, which is finely minced. Now what you do is you take the julienne cut, and it's just a variation from that.